Picture this. You're walking through a tropical forest and a flash of neon red wings zips past your face. A second later, different trail, different butterfly, boom, same blazing red. Coincidence? Not quite. Evolution has a favorite trick, and it's been pulling that stunt since dinosaurs ruled the planet. Here's the big idea, right up front. Across 120 million years, totally unrelated butterflies keep reaching for the exact same pair of genes to paint those red and orange warning signs. Same tools, different artists. Wild, right? Now, let's zoom out. When we talk about evolution, we usually picture nature as an all-you-can-eat buffet of options. Infinite dishes, infinite flavors. But, and this is key, when survival pressure cranks up, that menu shrinks fast. Think of chefs in a rush choosing the two sauces everybody loves because diners, or in this case, predators, always respond the same way. That repeat choice is what scientists call convergence, and it's why today's story matters. First signpost: what the researchers did. They collected DNA from more than 200 butterfly species. Then, they lined those genomes up like sheet music, hunting for identical riffs next to color pattern genes. Two names kept playing on repeat: optix and WntA. Different chromosomes, same job, laying down bright patches and bands. Second signpost: where the magic happens. You'd think the action sits inside the genes themselves. Nope. The protein coding parts of optix and WntA barely change across tens of millions of years. The real playground is the surrounding regulatory DNA, dozens of short, switch-like segments. One switch lights up a red block on the forewing, another paints a white stripe on the hindwing, another traces a thin orange outline. Flip just one, and an entire band disappears while everything else stays perfect. Let that sink in. Because the system is modular, evolution gets a modular, mix-and-match toolkit instead of starting from scratch every time. Unrelated species facing hungry birds can dial in similar patterns by tweaking the same easy-to-reach switches. No gene swapping required, just the same developmental knobs sitting there, begging to be turned. Third signpost: why this keeps happening. Picture a well-worn hiking trail across a mountain range. Many hikers, many starting points, but only a few safe passes. The comparative work, lining up genomes from branches that split before some of today's mountains even existed, shows the same regulatory neighborhoods getting scribbled on again and again. Those repeats tell us there are only so many safe ways to redraw a wing without wrecking everything else the organism needs. That idea stretches beyond butterflies. Poison dart frogs blazing neon in the Amazon? Different genes, same visual punch. Human tumors dodging a cancer drug? They often pick the very same mutation, even though thousands of others are theoretically possible. Cells, wings, frogs, they all reveal pressure points that are flexible enough to tweak but safe enough not to break the system. Evolution, it turns out, is less like freestyle jazz and more like riffing on a greatest hits playlist. So what? If some genetic routes are reliably favored, our forecasts of change get sharper. Conservation teams can spot species stuck in developmental cul-de-sacs. Plant breeders and doctors can keep an eye on the known fault lines where rapid shifts love to pop up. It's like knowing which bends in a river erode fastest. You can plan the levees before the flood arrives. Here's the bigger takeaway. History quietly nudges the future. The same pressures shaping butterflies today could guide how corals cope with heat, how crops face new pests, or how pathogens evade vaccines. By mapping those well-trodden routes now, we're not just explaining the past, we're sketching the outlines of what comes next. Quick reflection before we wrap up. Try these 3 questions this week. Evolution keeps reusing the same gene toolkits. What 2 or 3 personal toolkits, skills, habits, strengths, do you keep leaning on across totally different projects? How could you double down on them instead of chasing something shiny and new? In nature, hard constraints like body plans shape what's possible. What real-world limits, time, money, responsibilities, box you in right now, and how could you work with them, not against them? Convergent evolution is nature's way of finding repeat answers. Where in your own life do the same problems keep resurfacing, and what underlying pattern, your personal optics, might be begging for a tweak this week? So here's what we covered today. First, a study of 200 butterfly species shows they keep using the same two genes, optix and WntA, to paint vivid warning colors. Second, the drama happens in tiny regulatory switches around those genes, giving evolution a modular, mix-and-match toolkit. Third, that repeat use reveals deep constraints. Only a few safe paths exist, so different lineages, and even cancer cells, tend to walk the same road. Finally, knowing those favored paths lets us forecast change, protect vulnerable species, and even outsmart disease. You now know that evolution isn't random chaos. It's a guided dance along well-worn grooves. Spot those grooves, in nature and in your own life, and you can predict, prepare, and maybe even steer what happens next. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep an eye out for the patterns hiding in plain sight. They're telling you the future, if you know where to look.